Yeah, so let's talk animation for a bit, right? So yeah, Ricardo, Star Trek Lower Decks,
Sure.
its final season has just started. The premiere dropped. I still have not jumped on board with this show, and from the reviews, the glowing reviews that you've given me with about the show over the years, I have to be like a Star Trek nerd to really get all the jokes, right? But for me, I don't think that I
Yeah,
have to
kind of.
know every single thing Star Trek, but that I don't know, like you will tell me that I don't need to know every single thing, but part of me is like I kind of need to,
Yeah, no,
you know.
I keep saying that, but yeah, you kind yeah. The thing is, it is unfortunately designed like that. I do think it does suffer from that whole inside joke, inside baseball kind of a fandom kind of thing. Like as I said it before and I said it again, it is really a Trek forum gone sentient, right? That's basically what it is. Um, and yes, it does. I do think it does suffer from that problem because even people who like Star Trek have problems with the show in that sense because it only relies on the reference and the this and the that, and so even if you I really am, I do think if you're not a fan of the material, you would kind of probably have a hard time enjoying it. I'm hard pressed to think so because really it relies on a lot of in joke and oh, this character never get a promotion and this character never do blah 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 and so on and so forth. Yeah, I don't know. The show itself, it's finally started season 5. um, it is like what they do with it so far. It's pretty funny. They start off with a quote unquote mirror universe episode. Not the mirror universe in the canon as we understand it, but the idea of they just encounter a parallel reality and they meet like slightly altered versions of themselves for this first episode, and that's pretty much it. And then it catches up with Tendi and her thing because the big thing at the end of last season was she, well, presumably leaves the Federation to go back home, and she had to sort out a problem. And then basically they have they started over 2 episodes, so the two plot lines play and intermingle. And the first episode was this parallel universe episode where they meet counterparts of themselves. So in this universe, the mother is no longer the captain of the ship. Mariner, who is still a low level nobody, in at least as rank is concerned, she's the actual captain of the ship this time, but she's like a terrible captain. And they have a bunch of alternate reality stuff that they play with, and they make a bunch of jokes. It's just a bunch of stuff like they increase the like okay, there's a running gag in the opening credits of the show where this space battle just keep getting bigger and bigger every season. So like this season they add 2 extra things instead of 1 extra thing. And that's pretty funny. And well, they do 2 big references. That is if you know who I think Apollo. You saw Apollo's hand. If you know what that is, there's an old Trek deep cut. And the Vija, right? There's another old Trek deep cut from the first film. And it's stuff like that, right? Again, it relies on the in jokes and the characterization and what characters doing and whatnot. And yeah, that's about it. It's I'm happy for it. I'm enjoying these episodes, but it's still I do think yes, it is that's a really valid critique of it, which is yeah, you kind of have to know what going on to say what going on. That's it. Sorry to say it. It's that. Oh yeah, yeah. Fun so far. Worth checking out. So when the finale come out, I'll do a whole retrospective and what the last 5 seasons so have to say about it. My own opinion about a lot of Star Trek, I've said people complain about the whole 5 seasons of the show getting cancelled, but I don't really have a problem with that. I've said it before. I actually do think that all Star Trek should be I think all Star Trek should be 5 seasons from here on in, just to line up with the whole 5-year mission conceit. So like this is why it's not bothering me to me. And then to be fair, 5 seasons is perfect for 5 seasons is perfect to line up with good storytelling anyway. Like a show should be only 5 seasons anyway. Okay, you can tell your stories from here on in. First season should be a big intro. Second season should be like, and third season should be a subversion, and then fourth season should be a like deepening of the narrative, and then your fifth season is your wrap up. That's where you say, okay, everything wrapping up. It's just a shame that people don't do it or time it particularly well or make it work. But that's about it. I am. You'll see where they're going with this. The work seems to line up for other people. Like Tony Newsom has other material shows that already starting already. I know it have a couple shows that in the pipeline done already in production and being shot. Like, I could. We'll see what's going on with it. Alright, that's about it. Not much else to say. These first 2 episodes, they're fun. A bunch of okay jokes. The trailer spoils a couple things. It have something involving a character from Voyager that's coming up. That is a big running joke in the narrative. And again, if you're not a fan of Voyager or a fan of the fandom, you won't know this one way or the other. So yeah, that's about it. Moving on.
All right, so I'm gonna ask a dumb question, right? Trekkies, please don't crucify me in the comments, right? Can I enjoy the show in like say like how Rick and Morty is, right? Where it's clever, albeit irreverent humor, right? And I know
But
it's within a specific genre, but I don't need to know the film or the show that they're referencing to get the joke because the jokes kind of just stand on their own, right? Or is it that I just need to know a lot about Star Trek to laugh at the show?
The show, no, the show does reference. That's the thing. The show does try to balance it. I think the show does try to balance that. Like it try, but like in the end of the day, it end up because to me it almost always leans on the you kind of have to be a Trekkie to like get this reference or something like that. That's it. Like that's the problem. I mean, I get. I'm somebody who generally defends the show and enjoy it, and I get why, but I really understand why the critique is there. I don't know. I don't know if you just don't watch the material. I really hard pressed to think. I'm trying to find who's these people who love Lower Decks but don't know Star Trek. Like they might enjoy the show for what it is, but they watch a little bit of Star Trek. They might, that's the whole thing. And the thing is, what it relies on is just the humor of the reference, because a lot of humor relies on just the cult around it rather than the actual material itself. Like that's what I realize now. Like because Star Trek had a lot of like, for lack of a better term, a lot of chilling periods, right? A lot of winter periods where they just went kind of dark and it had no Star Trek for a long time. So the fan base kind of just take up the space and they make a reference to this, that, to the other. And that's the only reason why people enjoy it, because of the type of people who spend time online talking about Star Trek. I don't know. I'm really hard pressed. I mean, I recommend you just give first season a reference and see what you enjoy. But like, I cannot think so, because they'll do like all these like dumb things like referencing the movies and how the movies will have these big romance shots about the movie, about the ship or something like that. Like, or they'll make fun of this, that, to the other, and it's like clearly that's your reference. If you don't get the reference, I don't see how you can appreciate it. To be honest, and other people who are Trek fans or know Trek at least, or talk about Trek a lot themselves, don't like the show. I have two people who I know who give really valid critiques of the show. Right, you totally you understand where they're coming from. Yeah, so that's that. I don't know. I try it yourself and tell me if you enjoy it. I don't know. I have no idea, because in the case of Rick and Morty will just do a sci-fi reference at most, right?
Right.
He'll just say, "Hey, like this thing," and then it's like, "All right, that's from some old book that if you're a sci-fi fan you might get," or they'll reference something from Marvel Comics, but then subvert it in some way, right? Remember they made a whole fun of the Avengers. And, they had a whole thing that's basically a reference to Counselor Reeds, for example, and all of that stuff, which is a big storyline thing. I don't know if you'll appreciate it more or less in that sense. I don't know. So that's it. Moving on.
All right, so let's talk about something even more morbid, right? Way more morbid, right? So let's talk about the first season of Uzumaki, right? I guess the only season, given how the story played out, right? So here's the thing with me, right? Not familiar with the works of Junji Ito, right? I know that he's a legendary manga artist, and yes, I know that Uzumaki is one of his revered works, right? But I've never read it. I never read the source material. Never saw any of the movies that were based off of stories that he wrote. So yeah, this is like officially my first, my official introduction to his work, right?
Yeah, there was a movie on Netflix a while back. I remember watching that.
Okay.
I think it just tell one story of his. That was a little while back.
All right.
That's about it. But I didn't watch this. I didn't worry to watch it, because I heard some really bad things about it. And I'm wondering if this. I'll give it a chance later and see if I could give it a chance, because I didn't. I'm a fan enough of Ito. Like he's one of these people I really appreciate it. He's the if the running kind of internet meme is that he's basically the mirror version of Miyazaki. Apparently a very nice personality and internal life, but nightmarish imagery and storytelling. And Miyazaki's the exact opposite. Miyazaki's all these whimsical, great stories, but he himself seems to be a miserable person from what people gather. Again, it's a meme. I don't know if that's true. So that is about it. Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, before I jump in, right, have you ever read Uzumaki, or are you familiar with the story of that?
Yeah. Like, I read these years ago, long time, but it's around the same time I was going through a kind of weird horror kick, and I was really into, like, a lot of, like, great, like, high detail, horror imagery, and Japan was kicking that for me. Well, between that and Berserk, right?
Oh yeah. Well. I mean, I saw the Berserk anime, right? But I never read the manga. Because
right.
I saw the anime, so I was like, I don't need to read the manga. 'Cause I feel like
Yeah,
like it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, the big reason is that, I was just doing like research in terms of this, like, was the best pencil work out there. That is one thing about Uzumaki. There's have this amazing pencil work, the basic lining and pencil work and pen work. When it comes to like just the art itself in the manga, now just like amazing black and white. And I was looking for that at the time. I remember this, it was just general research, but also liking the material as it is. So yeah, go ahead now.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, this is my introduction to this, right? So I'll try to explain try to state what the story is about, right? So we are introduced to the town of Kuruzu Cho, right? Kuruzu Cho, right? If I got that name wrong, forgive me, right? And we follow these two teenagers. We have Kiri and we have Suichi, right? Which is her boyfriend, right? And early on, it's just established that they just don't like being in this town. This town is pretty weird. We learn with Suichi that his father is obsessed, like just ridiculously obsessed with spirals, i.e. Uzumaki, right? To the point that he, let me just say, shows how much he loves or he's so enamored by spirals. Like, he wants to be a spiral of his own,
Right, I'm familiar with the story because the spirals operate like a kind of Lovecraftian thing in the mind. Yeah.
Well, that's the right term, Lovecraftian, right? Both him...
Eldritchian. Yeah, they call it Eldritchian. I know people don't want to use Lovecraft name no more because, use that in time resist. Eldritchian.
Yeah, but
Eldritchian is fine. Eldritchian is a good term too.
All right, yeah, but Lovecraftian is the term that we kind of know distinctly, right? But whatever. Yeah, so both him and Kiri just start seeing all these weird events taking place, but they all center on spirals, right? And what they set up here is that it will all kind of build off of some kind of obsession, right? So in the case of Kiri, it is you have this one guy who real attracted to him. Real attracted to her, and they have a nickname for him called Jack in the Box, and you see how that plays out. She also has a friend who, believes that she's the prettiest girl in the class, in the class, right? That they belong to, right? And all the guys attracted to her, right? But then you realize, you notice that she have a scar on her forehead, but then eventually that scar turns into a spiral, and you see how that plays out too, right? And then there's one girl who's like, oh, look at you, Kiri, with your pretty hair. You see how that plays out, right? That was actually really creative with the whole hair thing, right?
Right.
As far as Suichi goes, is just seeing his parents just basically go mad, right in front of his eyes, right? And then from there is just...
these feel like, what do you feel like, sorry to say, these feel like kind of, again, literally Lovecraft, but it also has a kind of Twilight Zone Ultra Limits angle to it,
Yeah.
I remember...
where just a normal person just finds himself or herself in just this weird, uncanny situation, and there's no way out, right? And that's one thing that the show really sets up here. There's no escape from all of this, right? It is just insanity on top of insanity, crazy event on top of crazy event. People just going nuts, and it just gets more and more and more and more bizarre, with every episode, right? Which is 4, right? But interestingly, in the 4th episode, this is where things kind of start to make sense, right? Because Suichi sort of realized early on the town is cursed, right? But then in that 4th episode, you see where all this leads to, and then you kind of get the answer into what is causing this curse. And I'll stop here, right? So as I said, this is my introduction to Junji, right? And I must say, boy, this guy has tons of imagination, boy.
He's really
wow. He is. Boy. Yeah, because one thing, why I admire about this guy, right, is that he just takes something like spirals, right, and people's obsession with spirals, right, and he just found so much creative ways to explore it, right, just taking as much imagery related to spirals and running with it, right, whether it's typhoons that just come out of nowhere or someone who morphs into a creature. I'm not going to say what it is, right? But then we just say shell. That's all I have to say, shell. That's all I'll say without spoiling anything, right? And he just carries these conceits in very bizarre places, right? But they all have, and this is the best way I could sum up this story and this show, there's a twisted logic to everything.
Right.
everything
right.
plays out
That's a
to
good. Yeah,
its conclusion, and it makes sense. It's weird. It makes no
yeah,
sense, but it makes sense when you really sit down and think about it, right? And I found myself like, because I literally binged this whole 4 episode out, right? And I would say, as a first timer to this story, it makes sense to see it play out like that. Like, unless you know the material, you can watch on a weekly basis. I was like, nah, I had to see this play out from start to end, right? And I won't lie, I was roped in from that first episode, but I was just like, all right, this is weird, and I could see first timers to this not liking this at all. But I just had to see where this was going, right? And it just took me on this ride, right? So what the best compliment I could give this show is that the experience of watching it though is something that I will not forget in a hurry, right? For one thing, just the decision to have this thing be black and white. I thought that was a brilliant choice, right?
right,
It
right, right.
really does
It
feel
just
like I am reading the manga, like I'm seeing it,
right,
in
right.
live. Not so much in live action, but I'm seeing it play out in real time, right? Almost like you're reading the page, you're just seeing the story play out, right? And yeah, it just added so much to the tone of it, to how it looks and whatnot, right? And I'll add another term. It's very Lynchian as well too. There's numerous
Right,
moments that,
right.
that remind me of Eraserhead, where it's like this weird reality and there's no escape, there's no hope, and you're just seeing weird things happening. And just like, I don't know what really to say. It's just weird. So you just had to kind of roll with it, you know what I mean? So it's like that, right? I thought that the voice acting was great for what it was. I actually like took in actually watched the second episode in English. I thought the English wasn't half bad, right? But I basically took in
Okay.
the first, third, and fourth episodes in Japanese. I thought the Japanese dub was good, right? I also dug the music, which was done by Colin Stetson, right? This saxophonist, right? This American saxophonist, right? And yeah, as you would expect from this, it's very discordant, very eerie uses of sax in this, but it just sounds weird, but
Yeah.
again, very Lynchian, right? And also just in terms of how the story is told, right? It really reminds me of Scavenger's Reign, right? Very not
Right.
episodic,
Yeah, okay, that's a
very
good comparison.
chapter-like,
Okay.
right? Where you'll see
Yeah.
a scene play out, and then they'll just cut to black, and then they'll start, cut to black, stop, cut to black, stop, right? Very chapter-like in terms of its structure, right? And I feel like it's because of the graphic novel and the way how that is told, right? So, all right, so just to kind of bleed over slightly into the negatives, right? So I could see some diehard fans kind of watching this and saying, you're really condensing the story too much. You're kind of cutting out certain things. Because I could tell that a few things were probably cut out, right? So, like, case in point, there are a few, like, I could tell there are a few moments where you see something happen, right? It's very not very gory, it's very disturbing, right? Very bizarre, right? But you're thinking you're gonna see how that moment kind of ends, right? But it'll stop at a certain point and then continue on, right? So I don't know if it just has to do with how the story is told. I don't know if it was Junji's decision to have those moments cut at a certain point. But like for me going in for the first time now, I was just thinking, oh, I'm gonna see like excessive gore and violence now. We don't really get that. There are violent scenes in it, right? But it's not too gratuitous, right? It's not too graphic, right? But I feel like if I read the book, I would see more gross out moments, right? That's the best way I could sum it up, right? Where this kind of stops at a point and just keeps moving on, right? So I could see some fans looking at this and saying, you're rushing the story. This shouldn't have been 4 episodes. It should have been longer, right? But I will kind of make a defense and say I think that the number of episodes, it makes a lot of sense. It should be short because like altogether it comes up to like about 90 minutes, close to like a hour and 45 max.
Right.
I think it makes sense too, right? Because I don't know if people would have stomach, if you were binging it, that is, if they would stomach 2-3 hours of this. It might just be too much for people to take in. They might just want to like bash their head into a wall or something like that from all the insanity, right? And yeah, this show goes into some really, really dark and morbid territory, right? And I won't lie, there was actually some moments where I was just kind of laughing at it, like this chuckling to myself, like, wow, but like, this is so fucking weird, boy. But again, because they carried it out to this logic, in this level, I like, Yeah, this is exactly how this scenario would have played out. Like case in point, this one girl who's obsessed over Kiri's hair, right? So that slight spoiler, Kiri's hair just starts growing and it looks like spirals and it just like growing really, really at a really accelerated rate, right? And her friend is kind of watching all this too, and her hair start growing out too, and just have this kind of
Right.
battle between the two of them, and where the rival story ends, like, yeah, that makes sense. Actually makes sense, right? Also, there's one involving Kiri's friend, the one with the scar, right? What I would say, without spoiling too much, it's one of the primary images that you will see that promotes this show, right? The other one, slight spoiler, involves Suichi's dad, and when his tongue turns that spiral, that was fucked up.
Right.
But where his arc ends, I was like, again, yeah, it's bizarre, but it's like, yeah, this is how it's like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, his obsession. He's obsessed over spirals. Of course, it's gonna end like this, right? That's all I'll say without spoiling anything, right? So yeah,
But
yeah.
as I say with the point is that it makes sense with Ito, because the concept of the spiral is a general like concept you could take and put it into like some kind of general conceit anyway. The idea of not recovering or a spiral of depression or something like that. You'd have a lot of metaphor there, but the thing is nobody's used it in the West, like surprisingly. Whereas in the East, the term spiral, I mean, it's a reason why Naruto name is Uzumaki, right? Because is a hurricane or something like that. Like you could use all kind of metaphors. Like, hey, look, I don't write a Dread Caribbean story, right? Spiral, dark shit, and a hurricane hit turned that, right? Some bullshit like that, right? Yeah, you get the point, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But what also surprised me, right, before I get to the negatives, right, is the final episode actually, because what it does, it actually takes that whole curse conceit now and turns it into what's primarily like a post-apocalyptic situation. Yeah, the whole town is pretty much messed up. Everybody just trying to survive, and it's just a bunch of like insanity just going on, right? And you actually get to see what has been causing all of this, right? But as I expected, there's no answer to it. It's just something that happens. You kind of see how it works and resembles how the spiral itself or the various spirals that show up in the show work. And it sort of stops. And where it leads to is just basically, rebirth in a sense. The story kind of resets, the spiral resets, right? And it just starts all over again. I just thought like just that in itself was just a brilliant way to end the show, right? Just the story, just kind of saying, yeah, just kind of starts all over again, right? So the story just really amazed me, right? Just where Junji's story just went in all these various directions, right? And also like just the pace of it, right? Just telling all these weird stories in a sort of quick pace now. So it's just like you just can't get a break, right? Because these episodes are like 23, 25 minutes long, right? And yet still it's just packed with so much craziness now. It's like you just kind of need a chance to breathe, right? But that being said, though, just to get the negatives, the pacing of it is both the blessing and curse of it as well, right? Of the show. Because yes, I understand it. You're trying to condense the story down, because I think it's 3 volumes that this series is, right? I think it's 3 volumes in total, right? Or 4, if I'm not mistaken, right? And you're trying to condense all that it's 3 volumes. You're trying to condense all that into 4 episodes, right? So yes, unfortunately, there's character development and story development that kind of is thrown away. And again, I never read the book, so I don't know. But you could tell just the way how it's cut now that yes, certain bits of detail or whatnot is thrown away, right? But then you can also make the excuse, well, it's supposed to be mysterious. You're not supposed to get a clear answer. But still, you could tell there's points, there's stuff that feel like they missed out. There's little bits where it's like, all right, I get, but you could kind of explain this a little bit. You don't have to give me the full detail. We could just give me a little bit more explanation. I feel like if I read the books now, I will get that right.
Right. So, elephant in the room now. What's going on with the animation though? I've heard episode 2 had like a notoriously bad animation. Like I don't know what the fuck was going on. I don't go watch it myself, so I had to see what's going on. But yeah, tell me if that affected your experience or not.
Yeah. So what happened now is that they changed directors. Well, okay, so somebody decided out of the blue, right? Instead of just having one man like handle all 4 episodes, right? We just gonna have all right. So basically, we have a series director, right? We have an episode director, right? So I thought that well, first off, I thought that both was the same person, right? But if not, okay, I thought that one
Right.
man was gonna handle the whole thing, right? And the episodes would have been handled by one man, so you keep it consistent, right? But after episode one, which I thought was great in terms of just the animation, in terms of the look of it, they even add like the action lines too in certain points. Like, all right, yeah, cool, and
Can't go wrong with that.
and incorporate some 3D and they blend it really seamlessly. Like, all right, this is so cool. Yeah, I love it. This. Yeah. Afterwards, they just changed the directors. I like. Why? Just keep the people. What happened? I don't know. Right? Apparently, the series director, from what I read in here on IG, he just did storyboards. He did the storyboard for all 4 episodes, right? But I don't know why he couldn't just stick around as the series director, and even more so, I don't know why the episode director changed, right? Why they did that, right? Because you see the quality dip, right? So the excuse is because it's it's anime. We know with anime, right? They could cut corners and see, like that, right? And of course, they could it being
It's all
black and
cut
white.
corners,
Yeah,
I think they still edit. Yeah, they still animate on 2s and thing. They're still on that.
Yeah.
On 3s actually.
Yeah. And then also too, because it's black and white, it could get away with certain shots and whatnot, right? But still, there are
Right.
noticeable moments, right? And here's the funny thing about it, right? I would not have known about the animation dip if that was not publicized since that second episode dropped. I heard through the grapevine about, boy, what happened in episode 2, boy? Like, we just took this huge dip, right? So I had that in mind going into episode 2 and I saw it, right? But it's not too noticeable. It's just in some scenes,
Right.
you will see it, boy. Like, case in point, there's one moment, there's a few moments, for example, in the other 3 episodes where you see characters run and they look kind of awkward when they run. And I just say, like, why they look like that? Why they back arch like that? Why they moving like that? It looks so weird, right? There's a moment involving a lighthouse. And I think that's like a key element in the story, right? You see a character running down and swear to God, the background looking out like it just like I think like it just sort of moving out. No, like the character who's running, right? And the background don't match at all. So like the background part of the background, sorry, don't even match with the rest of it, right? So it just makes the running look even more weird, right? They're like, dog, that clearly look unfinished. Like, why didn't go back and like fix that, dog?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? You know what I mean? But that's to wrap things up. But you can't tell me, because the show done weird and it's a bunch of weird imagery. That's why it looks so. No. Don't come with that weird imagery bullshit. No, it's just some unfinished stuff. It's some unpolished stuff. Y'all could have just fine tuned that, man. That's all we asking for. Cause like that's to wrap things up. Like the show itself is not like too overly detailed, right? But still, after episode 1, boy, there's just some moments where it's like, nah, that just look crooked, that look awkward, that look weird. And boy, I can't even imagine if you are a fan of the manga, you probably watch this and just with anger, but like, what is this? Why you do this? Just take him out of the show, right? But thankfully, the story is so strong now that I kind of have to let those things slide, right? But unfortunately, there were moments that I didn't notice those, right? So yes, I will say just to wrap things up, right? The experience of watching this show was worth it for me, though. I got an experience out of this story here. I could see why the story was so beloved and why people just revere it as one of the best horror manga ever, right? And I would love to say that over time, right? People will look back at this show and be like, yeah, this is one of the best horror anime ever, right? But as far as adaptations go, I can't say this is one of the best because even though I never read the source material, I could tell that there was stuff that was cut out though. But it's one of those situations where you could kind of say, okay, maybe they could have had more episodes, but at the same time, it's like, would people sit around for like a whole 10 episodes of this or more or less? I don't know. I can't really say, right? I think 4 works, but I felt like maybe if you got 1 or 2 more episodes, you could have gotten like a real like classic here in our hands, right? And yes, while I do like the pacing of it and how it just makes things even weirder because of just how batshit crazy each scenario is. Yeah, you could tell that there are points where it's like they just kind of condensing way too much now just to cater for time, right? But I actually still dug the show though, despite its flaws, right? Despite its technical narrative and editing flaws, right? I still enjoyed it, right? But that's just mainly because of Junji Ito, and this is amazing story that this man told. Again, just taking the concept of a sparrow and just exploiting it in all these bizarre ways, right? But still making twisted logic of everything, right? So yeah, Junji, for some odd reason, ended up being the winner out of all this, right? And I would say, as a first timer, yeah, I really enjoyed the story, right? So rating wise for me, I will give this I like the decent 3.5 out of 5. I would say that it is worth checking out. If you're a fan, if you're ready manga, I would say check it out, but I would not be surprised if you get mad after see episode 2 and how the quality dips. But it's not by too much though. But yeah, there are moments where it's like, nah, bro, like go back and polish that shit, Dre. Like all these professionals, Dre. Don't give me that. What the hell is that? Why the person looking so? Come on, right? But yeah, as an introduction to this story, I think that this show works, right? But of course, last thing I'm gonna say, of course, this is not going to be for everyone, right? It is not the scariest anime I've seen in the world, but it's one of the most bizarre I've ever seen. And yeah, just the bizarre nature of it alone will not be for everyone, right? And especially with the way how it's told, with just one piece of insanity over another, yeah, this will be taxing to people's brains and people's sanity, right? People will just kind of be like, nah, I can't take in that. I can't take any more of this, right? But for the bold and the brave and the initiated and the ones who just curious, yeah, give this one a look, right? But just keep your expectations kind of low, especially if you're familiar with the source material.
Okay, not that there.
Yeah, so yeah, Ricardo, when you get a chance, I would love for you to see it, right? But again, yeah, just look out for the dipping quality, But I would like to hear your thoughts on it when you do get around to seeing it. But yeah, it's worth watching. It's really worth watching. Yeah.